Most of you watching this video are pro-violence, specifically initiating violence against someone who has never been violent against you. And if you don't believe me, I'm about to prove it to you in this video, and I'm going to explain what this means for you and what this means for society as we continue to enter into our dark age. I am Caleb Jones, this is Sovereign CEO. I help people just like you how to set up location-independent businesses, move to a less bad country, or at least set up an international backup plan, and do all these things for very little money. As most of you are aware, I do not talk about politics directly. I do mention political things from time to time. And unfortunately for me, since I hate talking about it, there are times where I do have to kind of lean in that direction at least a little bit. But I used to talk about politics quite a bit at my blogs. You can read all those articles at calebjones.com/blogs. And I basically stopped talking about politics because politics is literally useless. There is nothing you can do now politically. There is no one you can vote for. There's no political party you can vote for. There is no movement you can start. There is no protest you can do. There is nothing you can do about in terms of screaming on the internet that will prevent the collapse of the Western world. The window of opportunity for preventing that was at least 20 years ago, and you guys missed it by a long shot. Today, talking about politics, getting worked up about politics, excited about things that you think are going to change things, Milo Yiannopoulos, Jordan Peterson, Donald Trump, the Canadian trucker protest, Elon Musk buying Twitter, Roe v. Wade, the Rippaverse, whatever thing you like getting excited about, this time it'll fix everything, everybody. Won't work, and the amount of energy you spend on these topics is the equivalent to watching a Star Wars movie. Seriously, electing Donald Trump will have the same effect on your society as watching a Star Wars movie, so you might as well watch a Star Wars movie. But please watch one of the old movies, not the new ones. They're terrible. Hollywood can't make good movies anymore. Again, Western collapse. Regardless, sometimes I have to address some political issues because they have a direct relation on what we talk about here at Sovereign CEO. And there is something that I have noticed, a change in people in the Western world, starting about 20 years ago, which probably not coincidentally was the beginning of the end of the United States as a power. I think the collapse of the United States began circa 2002 or so, during first term of George W. Bush, right after 9/11. And I think future historians will prove me right on that. We'll see. But around then, I started noticing a change, and that is that people in the West were for the initiation of violence. Now let me describe what I'm talking about. I'm always very clear when I use these terms. The initiation of violence means you commit physical violence, including deadly violence where you kill people, against people who have never attacked you. Okay? So if you're minding your own business walking down the street and I walk up to you and I punch you in the face, that is the initiation of force. And that is wrong, and it's something that no one should do. I'm a libertarian. A core concept of libertarianism is we do not initiate violence. We do not initiate force. I have never initiated force in my life, ever. There's been one or two times I've responded to force, I'll talk about that in a second, but I've never initiated violence, nor have I been for any country initiating violence against another country. Now, responding to violence is okay. If you are indeed minding your own business, walking down the street, and some maniac comes up and punches you in the face, you have every right to return fire and beat the shit out of him because you're not initiating force, you're responding to force. Same thing is if you're walking down the street with your wife or your girlfriend, someone punches her, you have every right to go beat the shit out of that guy because, again, you're responding to force, you're not initiating it. I am talking here about the initiation of force. And I have found that Westerners today, and today it's worse as I've ever seen, I'll give specific examples in a minute, are for the initiation of violence. And this is not a left versus right thing because both sides are for this. What? Yes, I will give specific examples in a minute. Both left-wingers, woke people, socialists, and right-wingers, Christians, Trump supporters, they're all for this. They're all for attacking, in many cases, killing people in other countries or in different scenarios by initiating violence when they have done nothing to us. I think it's quite disturbing, and I'm about to give you several examples over the last 20 years, including some very recent examples from this year. Before I do that, if you like this content, you should subscribe to this channel, click the notification bell, leave a like on this video, leave a comment on this video, especially if you disagree with me, that's fine. The more algorithm-friendly interactivity I get on this content, the more of this content I will provide for you for free. So here are the multiple examples I could give. I could give many more than this, but here are the big ones, or at least the ones off the top of my head. 20 years ago, 9/11. When I commented on 9/11 many years ago at my blogs, demagogues. I had a bunch of psycho left-wingers who basically said that the children who died in 9/11, because there were like daycare centers in those buildings, the janitorial staff, people like that, deserved to die. They deserved to die. And they deserved to die even though they had done nothing wrong against anybody. There were people on the fringe, to be fair, that completely supported the terrorist attack on 9/11. Now, do I agree the United States was doing egregious things around that era in terms of foreign policy? Yes, I'm against every war the United States has had since World War II, and that's a lot of wars. And even World War II, I had severe problems with ways in which we conducted that war. We did not need to nuke Japan. They were already wanting to surrender. Don't get me started. But this was an example of people who were for the initiation of force, and in this case, deadly force. Then right after that, we had the Iraq War, where the United States made one of the biggest foreign policy military blunders in all of Western history by attacking Iraq and saying, oops, wrong country. And there were many, many right-wingers back then who supported doing this. They said, well, we had to go to war because, and that's the common refrain I see, these people who defend the initiation of violence. Well, we had to because. No, you didn't have to. There were all kinds of other scenarios that I discussed 20 years ago that the United States could have done that didn't involve spending trillions of dollars and 500,000 troops and bazillions of tanks and jets and destroying a country. You had many, many, many other options. But people back then said, and if you are too young to remember, I will educate you, or if you're old like me and you remember but you forgot, they said that if you were against the initiation of violence against the Iraqis, including civilian Iraqis, then you were anti-American and you were the problem. No, America was the problem. It should not initiate force against any country. No country, I've said this many times, no country should initiate violence against any other country. And as soon as you do that, the conversation is over. There were some valid gripes that the Arabic population had against the United States pre-9/11. There were some valid complaints that I agreed with. But as soon as they pulled 9/11, sorry, I can't support you anymore. You're killing civilians. You're initiating force against people who have never hurt you, and now it doesn't matter if you have a good point. Same thing with the war in Iraq. Same thing with Putin invading Ukraine. Same thing with a lot of other scenarios I'm going to give you in a second. As soon as you make it physical, the conversation is over. For those of you who know my history, many, many, many years ago, when I was a much different man and a beta male, and about 15, 20 years ago, I was married. And I divorced her because she did what? She was physically violent against me. And of course, she initiated it. I did not initiate it. I didn't even respond. I took it like a man because you're going to get in trouble if you respond to a woman physically these days in the Western world. But I gave her one warning. If she ever did it again, I said she'll never see me again. She did it again. She never saw me again. When you initiate violence, either interpersonally or via countries and foreign policy, the conversation is over and you're the bad guy. I don't care what reasons you had. You don't initiate force. That is evil. That is satanic and diabolic more than anything else I can think of. Moving on, I will give you now a left-wing example. The Floyd Riots that occurred in 2020. And if you want to watch an impassioned video I did back then, you can watch that video up there. It's a little crude, but my opinions on that, how both the left and right were wrong. But one of the refrains I saw as people were smashing people's cars, burning down apartment buildings, smashing up businesses of people who agreed with them politically, left-wingers for the most part, the left said, well, we have to do that because sometimes violence is the only thing you guys listen to. Wrong. Wrong, wrong. You don't initiate violence against innocent people. The hilarious part of that is the violence was initiated against, for the most part, people who agreed with you, who agreed with what happened with Floyd. Oh my God. And then, of course, when I attacked the police, initiating violence, not responding to it, that's okay, that's different. But initiating it, where the police would be walking down a street, there'd be a 75-year-old old man in the street, and they'd knock him down, and there's video of all this, they'd knock him down, and he cracks his head open and gushes blood all over the sidewalk, and I said, you can't do that. You can't initiate violence against people who haven't hurt you. What did the Trump supporters say? Well, they mumbled something about, well, law and order. Yes, you need law and order. Law and order is not cracking the heads open of 75-year-old old men who have done nothing wrong to you. So again, both sides are for this concept, which is very disturbing in my opinion. Now let's bring it up to date. Putin invading Ukraine. When I made videos about that and started talking about that, there were a whole bunch of Putin apologists who said, well, I mean, yeah, but he had to. He had to attack Ukraine that never attacked him. He had to murder all these civilians. I mean, he had to. He had to because of this reason and that reason. No, you don't have to. Just like America did not have to invade Iraq or 27 other countries it's invaded over the last several decades. Putin did not have to invade Ukraine. Another one I heard is, well, Putin was tricked into it, Caleb. He was tricked into it. All right, so now Putin is stupid. You're basically saying Putin is stupid. You're defending a guy who you're admitting is stupid and got tricked into it. No, you don't initiate violence. I don't care what the reason is. You can respond to violence. There are many other creative solutions that you can avail yourself of without sending in tanks and guns and bullets and bombs and killing tons of civilians, which is what happens every time you invade a country. For whatever reason you think is right, it is wrong if you are the aggressor. And I said this at the time. I've said this 20 years ago. I'm saying it again. Every time I have used the example of Putin invading Georgia, which he did back in 2008. Invariably, I get comments and DMs and emails defending Putin again, saying, well, you know, Putin had to do it. Or, well, no, I mean, they started it. No, they didn't start it. Georgia did not initiate it. Putin did and the separatists did. Georgians didn't. And I promise you, in the comments in this video, I'm going to get guys who are saying, well, Putin had to do it. Well, Bush had to do it. Well, Obama had to do it. We had to attack civilians who never harmed us, countries who never hurt us, and we had to kill thousands of people, Caleb. We just had to do it because of XYZ. And as I said, this is worse now than I've ever seen it before, because in the 80s and 90s, most Westerners did not have this opinion. When it happened, it only happened on small scales. We went into a country and we quickly left because people didn't like it. People said, why are you in Grenada? Why are you in Southeast Asia? We shouldn't be doing this stuff. People didn't like this. Today, it has completely flipped. Both left-wingers and right-wingers think it's perfectly fine to attack and in many cases murder to the tune of thousands of people who have never done anything bad to you, countries that have never done anything bad to you. I have been very consistent about this since day one. If any country attacks any other country preemptively, I am against the country that does so. That's just the way it works. Because you know why? I'm not a murderer. I'm not a psychopath. I'm not a bloodthirsty monster. I don't like people dying. And I'm not sure why people who agree with this, which is many of you watch this video, do want people to die. That's very strange to me. In my opinion, this is just my opinion. Okay, this is part of my philosophy. You are free to disagree on this because it's an opinion, not a fact. Anytime you find yourself knee-jerk defending someone, either a person in a one-on-one scenario or a leader of a country, preemptively initiating violence against another person or people or country, and you find yourself defending it, well, that's not true because, well, doesn't matter what you say. As soon as you start defending it, in my strong opinion, you have to pause, take a look in the mirror, and do a gut check. Who are you? Why do you believe this? Why do you believe in preemptive murder? Why? What is it inside you that compels you to defend people who kill thousands of people who have never done anything wrong against that person, or attack countries that have not been violent against that country? Why? What is it in you that is causing that? Usually, as I've talked about my content, it is from fear. You're probably scared. As I've mentioned before, as I've talked about before in my blogs, my videos, I'm of the opinion that all negative emotions come from one negative emotion, and that is fear. So I would ask myself, what am I afraid of? Why am I scared? Why am I defending the United States, UK, Putin, rioters and protesters, the Floyd Riots? Why am I defending these people? These people who are committing violence against innocent people who have never committed violence against them. Why? And ask yourself that question. It might be interesting to dig into your brain a little bit and find out why you think that. Because I see this all over the internet. I see this in conversations I have with people all the time, and it disturbs me. And it's getting worse. As we continue into our dark age, as the Western world continues to collapse, there will be more, not less, Westerners who feel this way. And for those of you who are not monsters, who do not like killing people, who do not believe in initiating violence, responding to violence is okay, but initiating violence, don't believe in that. Be aware that this trend, as far as I can tell, is growing. It's not dying. More and more people on the left and the right, normal everyday people, will be completely for the preemptive attacking of other countries or the attacking of other people. And unfortunately, that's where we are, and that's where things are going to be over the next few decades. Maybe this will turn around someday. Maybe. I hope so. But maybe not. I don't know. Just be aware of this for those of you who are rational and not murderous, and factor this into your plans. Be aware that more and more people, particularly Westerners, think it is perfectly fine to preemptively attack countries or other people. And if you want some techniques on how to protect yourself from war and violence, you should watch this video, this podcast video right now, and I'll see you in that video. Bye.